Okay, to do this next part, I need to do a backup. I need to back up these color maps. Okay, and the reason for that, later I'm going to develop normal maps for them, and I have to have the raw image. I cannot have the shadowed image, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to shadow these. So what I'm going to do is copy all these color maps into a folder, not this folder. I do not want these copies showing up in the turn-in. So there we go. There's some copies of those. Alright. Now, this gets a little bit tough to explain, but remember, you have to have that project set. Okay. It must be set to the folder on your desktop. You must save the scene. And this is where it gets a little fun. I already went through this process with you once, but I didn't really explain what I was doing. I just showed you what the advantage of having UVs that are tiled into different quadrants. I didn't explain what we're going to do. So here, under rendering, I went into the phase where we batch baked mental ray, square box, and we did an occlusion map. Okay. And I made a building 1 OCC with these settings. Okay, let me scroll through these very slowly. Single, use bake batch override, occlusion. Incidentally, if you raise this number up, you get a better map, but it takes forever. So always keep this one number 4. Now this is building 1. So what I'm going to do is make sure it's highlighted and hit convert. We all know what happens. It basically shadows in areas that have the geometry closer to it. So another thing later on, if you put a dumpster in this area and redo this, it'll bake the texture of the dumpster very close to the building. Okay, and that's shadow baking. Now there's another way to do that. I don't, because if you bake the shadows into a level, what if the lights move? Dynamically, most lights in games are they don't move very often. But I just don't like the look. Plus, the engine that I'm going to be using later on, the Unreal Engine, has a feature already built in for a shadow bake. Okay, so it's called Light Mass, and we're going to be using it to bake shadows. These are self-shadowed though, so it's a different story altogether. Cracks and crevices versus elongated shadows that appear when light hits an object. And I'm running out of things to talk about. Come on, 70%. Notice it's taking a little bit longer because of everything's got textures on it. It's getting a little slower. Each building I'm going to have to do this to. But I'll show you the workflow as soon as this gets done. Alright, there we go. So that map is now located on my hard drive. Okay, what I'm going to do is first close out of this one. I don't want to save that. Don't want to save that or this one. or this one. Okay, so I'm going to open that. First, I'll open the building 1 color map. Okay. Then I'm going to open the render data mental ray light map. I'm going to put object B by right-clicking duplicate layer over on object A, the color map. So now we have 2 layers, the OCC and the color map. And you turn this one to multiply. Okay. And voila, you now have a self-shadowed building. Now, I like turning this down just a skosh, just a little skosh. And I'm going to save this out. Remember, I have backup copies. Okay, now when I'm in Maya, I'm going to reapply building 1 to this. And you're going to see it's a little darker and a little self-shadowed in areas. And if it's not, it's because it didn't reload. Oops. This one. Here's building 1. Just make sure that it reloaded that texture. Sometimes it does not. There we go. So now it's very unified. Okay, it's a little bit darker, but this is going to be an alleyway and it's going to get dark in here. That noise did it some justice, and you can see inside this area it's now shadowed. Now if I had something set up next to it, like, oh, let's say a block, just as an example, when it did OCC, it would have OCC'd it, ambient occlusioned it with a shadow where that block is. I can't for the life of me get that to go right in that area. There we go. Little Victor on the keyboard. So if this block was here, not touching it, but just resting right on the top of it, that would have had a shadow on the original building to match this shadow of this area. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I want you to OCC every one of these buildings, just like I just did. Okay, and you're going to find out that the colors are going to start matching each other a little bit better. Things are going to get a little bit dirtier and gringier, and it all depends on how much you want to apply it as far as the opacity goes. So if I find that is too much, I'm going to knock it down just a little bit. Okay, like maybe 63% even. I'm going to increase the layers. That way it's a smooth transition. There we go. And I can constantly just go in here to building 1, hit color, and hit reload. That's a little bit brighter. I kind of like that look right there. So for every OCC, I'm going to use 63%. That's important. All right. So that's how it's done downtown. Get it? Because it's downtown. Please move on to the next video.